On the outskirts of the Rocky Mountain town of Lincoln, a man named Theodore Kaczynski lived with no running water or electricity for 25 years while leading a secret and sinister life that captured the attention of the world. He was born to a Chicago sausage maker and suburban housewife in the spring of 1942. He would attend Harvard at the age of 16 and earn a philosophy doctorate in mathematics. After 1 year of professorship, he turned his back on society and fled to the 52 American wildernesses, where he purchased a small parcel of land. During the summer of 1971, Ted and his brother David built a small cabin measuring 10 x 12 feet that he would call home. This film was made on the land where his cabin once stood and used his words from pages of writing that filled his shelves to tell the story. A merry company in snowmobiles, riding through snow-covered slopes and wooded areas. The kids don't notice a man watching them from behind a tree. Later, the family gets into a car and drives home. The wall of their house abruptly begins to shake violently, after which an unknown man enters the house. He begins smashing everything he sees in his path and advances toward the garage. After making sure he sees the right snowmobiles, the man destroys the machinery. Modern technology is the worst thing that has happened to the world. It is a crime that is destroying the planet. After a while, the man returns from his hunt and thanks the rabbit for the opportunity to get dinner. The hunter cuts up and cooks the poor animal. Music from an old receiver makes a sound throughout the cabin. The hunter's dinner is spoiled by the sounds of new snowmobiles outside. The machinery rolls around in the snowy hills all weekend, making the man nervous. The dreaded airplane hum, which sometimes sounds almost uninterrupted for more than an hour and ruins the sounds of beautiful nature. Sitting down on his bicycle, the hermit goes to town, where he visits the library. He reads the strange Who's Who in California and writes out the name of Percy Wood, president of United Airlines. Arriving at the bar where he works as a janitor, Ted watches the news about the sunken tanker. In the afternoon, he calls his mother and listens to complaints about his brother, with whom Ted hasn't had a relationship in a long time. He disapproves of David's strange marriage. The conversation is very irritating, for the man constantly blames his mother. He says that his mother put him in school too early, because of which he could not build good relationships with girls. This conversation was just to ask for money. On his way home, the man sees workers at the Montana Electric Company spraying cancer-causing herbicides without warning. About this problem, the man writes to the publisher of the newspaper. After writing the letter, the man secretly cuts down electrical poles belonging to the company. In the morning, Ted's silence and solitude is again disturbed by the sounds of airplanes. A violent shockwave drives the man to tears of impotent rage. This act forces the man to stand on the brink of violent revenge. At night, he procures all the right ingredients. In his diary, the man records that he is ready to kill anyone significant to society, or uses gunpowder for his shotgun, in the hope that it will do more damage than rifle powder. The man spends the last of his money and nearly loses a finger in the test. A lethal bomb of great succulence fails. After he scolds his boss, Ted loses his job at the factory. Lacing his sneakers with false soles, he sneaks onto the lot. A man ruins the tree motor of a chopping machine and throws an electric saw into a lake. All of these crimes he describes in his notes, which allows some peace of mind. Ted tries again to create a deadly bomb. This time, the result is very cool. Repeating his actions, he makes an explosive device, which he disguises as a book. The man decides to send the bomb from the big city. Calling himself Joseph Conrad, he rents a hotel room. An advertisement in the room reminds the man of United Airlines. Ted shaves off his beard, which greatly changes his appearance. Afterwards, the man leaves a bomb package in the mailbox. Afterwards, Ted goes to a computer store where he finds out who owns it. While moonlighting as a car washer, he speculates about the motives behind his actions. Ted hopes to draw public attention to the technological issue and to stop its development. He doesn't claim any lofty titles because this is only his own revenge. After receiving his paycheck from his master, Ted goes to the bathroom. He removes his hair from the toilet and hides it in a bag. He prepares the deadly package again, hearing the news that Percy Wood has received a book with a hidden bomb. The police have no evidence, although the bomb parts in the envelope were in pretty good condition. Ted puts the hair from the toilet into a deadly bomb. The TV tells us that Wood, like others, opens the mail not knowing what awaits him, and it's scary. Ted breaks his nose, dyes his hair, and gets curls. Now he's off to his next target. He leaves a bomb outside the car of an electronics store owner. The man picks up the package, and it explodes. 18 months later, explosions are heard all over the hill where Ted's cabin stands. A prospecting firm is exploring for oil. Helicopters circle the mountains day and night, causing Ted to worry. He opens a hunt for them, but hitting the helicopters with a shotgun is difficult enough. The man realizes that he can't find peace and quiet in the real world. Nature is beautiful, but if people find oil here, it will be a real disaster. Ted arrives at work at the library, where he sorts books and tries to strike up a conversation with a pretty woman. The pretty librarian's name is Becky, but that's just how she turns out in his dreams. Instead of a young girl, all we notice is an old woman. In the evening, he calls his brother David. Ted thought they had a lot in common, but he is domesticated. Ted reminds him that they have always dreamed of living in the middle of nowhere, away from modern technology. The conversation ends again with a request for money. In the morning, the man is awakened by the motorcycle engine. The motorcyclists have set up a workout among the hills, which makes Ted really furious. He is visited by a police officer who is investigating numerous home break-ins and machinery being taken out of commission. Ted denies his guilt. Later, he listens to news about the trial of a terrorist organization that opposes modern industry. The announcer reminds him where the head of the organization, David Foreman, will be speaking. Ted arrives at the school and listens to his appeals. The organization needs eco-warriors for the war. The next day, Ted goes to his favorite waterfall and vows revenge for all that is being done to the forest. The Industrial Revolution has been a disaster for the human race, so they oppose a system that calls for living in conditions unnatural to humans. He again dreams of Becky's imaginary girlfriend, but the real contamination of the mountain river and the explosion on the shore brings the man to his senses. He again asks his brother for money and proceeds to make the next explosive device. He is not at all bored in the woods, for here he can listen to the birds or the silence. It is relaxation and pleasure that is again interrupted by the loud sound of an airplane. These loud sounds make him want to end his life, but the man overcomes himself. After a while, the newspapers receive letters in which the terrorist group admits their bombings are ineffective. They plan to refine their bombs. Their goal is the destruction of industrial society in all parts of the world. He goes to town again, changes his appearance, and makes bombs while listening to a report on television. Ted decides to go to Canada to settle in the woods. If such a plan doesn't work, he goes back to the cabin and kills everyone he hates. Before that happens, the man sends another explosive package. He notices a message about a manhunt for the bomber. The newspapers receive the following letters mocking the FBI, and explosions are heard in the country. The man returns to his cabin. Ted realizes that he is greatly romanticizing the wildlife. He writes a letter again where he talks about his future plans. The man realizes that things are only going to get worse from here on, as mankind plans to take over large forested areas. He shares his problems with an imaginary girl. His parents put so much pressure on him with his studies that he couldn't find a girlfriend. The man again writes letters to the newspaper publisher where he calls himself the anarchist group Freedom Club. He alerts the publishing house to an important event. They have no fun making bombs out of scrap metal, so they offer a compromise. The newspaper publishes the article, and in return, the company gives up its terrorist activities. Ted goes to town, and he hears news about a man nicknamed Unabomber. He learns that a state of emergency has been declared across the country. In 17 years, the Unabomber has killed 3 people and injured 22. Police believe he is just jealous of more successful terrorists. News reports Unabomber's demand to publish a 35,000-word article. Ted prepares a new bomb by covering the explosives with sharp nails. Television presents clips showing actual explosions from the Unabomber bombs and how to detect the explosives. The FBI leaves it to the newspapers to decide whether or not to print the Unabomber story. Back in the Rocky Mountains, Ted burns the logger equipment. In the morning, he hears the news that his manifesto has been published. The publication is ready for any article if there's hope of getting around the explosions. This causes Ted to rejoice. He buys the newspaper with his articles and rereads them. After reading them, the man burns them in a bonfire. 7 months later, Ted receives a package and a letter from his brother expressing his concern and his desire to visit him. After a while, a detective comes to see him and 2 men who call themselves foresters. They need to know the boundaries of his property, and they ask to see the boundaries on a map. Ted suspects something wrong and tries to hide in a cabin, but he is caught. The forest rangers turn out to be FBI agents. Along with them comes a huge crowd of bodyguards who loom up the mountain slope. The man is taken away. It turns out that his brother's tip led them to him. David tells his lawyer of his suspicions. Colorado. 25 years later, after 3 deaths and 22 injuries, Ted Kaczynski was arrested and sentenced to life in prison at penitentiary, where he is currently incarcerated. As a result of Ted's manifesto being published, David and his wife, Linda, recognized his brother's writings and informed the FBI. It was the largest manhunt in FBI history. One thing we can say from recent events on the planet is that the technological process does bring with it not only good but also bad. It is practically impossible to stop this process, especially in such a terrible way as murder. Perhaps progress will make people regret their actions, and humanity will be able to understand what the Unabomber feared.